Crew member profile number 2, Sayensi. Age, 32 cycles. Height, 6'1". Position, Chief Lab Technician. Thank you for taking the time to sit down for this taped profile log. Please state your name and the position that you hold on this vessel.
Of course. I am Sayensi, a former member of the Ancient Space Pirates, or the Aether Space Pirates as many speak of us as, and I am the Chief Lab Technician for this craft.
Thank you for that. Would you kindly tell me a little bit about yourself? And please, be as open and honest as you can.
A strange way of wording it, but fair enough. I am one of the few surviving members of the crew that gathered and experimented with Phazon on Aether prior to the base shutting down and being dismantled by the local Luminoth and Galactic Federation, where I originally put my skills and good fortune to work. A lot of people seem to think of me as cold and uncaring with much of what I do, but it is not so. Coldness is merely a measurement of one's lack of tolerance for failure. And the science of experimentation, failure is always an option. Not a preferred one, but it happens. I see no issue with pushing the boundaries what could and could not work, or what should or should not be tested. Many former colleagues have called my nature Curious Cat Syndrome as a joke, but they're all dead and I'm still alive, so I think that testifies to my stance amongst them. Then there are others that say that my experiments can be too cruel or push into boundaries that shouldn't be pushed into, but again, I'm still here. Test subjects are named as such for a reason. All that matters is result, no matter how many bodies I have to go through to reach an appreciable milestone. I'm a man of logic and great technical skill, and I will not have any of that belittled by these cretins that they can barely keep my test tubes in order. They can go outside like other wild animals and get killed for all I care most days.
It sounds like you have some substantial hostilities towards your crewmates here.
I do. I'm not exactly going to hide that just because you're hosting this personnel interview for me. A wise idea, by the way. It's easiest to know everything you can about a subject before trying to seriously work with them.
Right, thanks. Given your words, I would assume that you've been working like this for a while. How exactly did you come into your current occupation here?
I'm not exactly that old. Just a lot sharper and more diligent compared to my co-workers. I am a graduate of the High Command University program, top of my class, and I've been working in my profession for at least a decade now. Not a long time for some, but I don't waste time, and I spend almost every waking moment of my existence working for the greater benefit of the Space Pirate Confederacy. Or at least I was until the Hunter wiped most of us out. That said, I worked on many different projects for High Command, with most of my work going into weapons and armor development, along with a few other side projects. I'm actually the one that helped to design the different types of biomechanical armor suits possessed by Zebesian pirates, to help them adapt to different environments on Zebes. Prior to its destruction, of course.
That is a fairly impressive accomplishment. You must have worked with many different groups in your work then. If that is the case, though, how did you get assigned to work on Aether?
To be very honest, it initially was not a place nor a position that I enjoyed to any degree. The only thing I hate more than incompetence is going outside, but after Phazon was discovered on the planet and a mining operation had been put into full swing, I initially had been working elsewhere, but upon discovering some of the unknown alien tech, I was called in to venture to the planet and to use it to test and see if it would be of use to the Confederacy as a whole. Plus, they needed assistance in trying to deal with a few issues that started to plague them. Issues that I would sadly prove to be ill-equipped to handle with the limited resources that were available to forces there. I expected to have access to a lab where I'd have plenty of space, equipment, men, resources, everything that I needed in order to conduct my work and provide important information regarding the alien tech they had discovered. And what did I arrive to? Absolutely nothing! No more than a few rooms were mainly being used to hold supply drones, anything else that couldn't be fit into general working areas. I was appalled. No, more than appalled, I was furious! I wasn't exactly asking for much here, and I got a waste sandwich. I would have given the long damn hell for such a stupid waste of time for me, but I quickly got the impression that the desperation for them all was real, and in hindsight, I suppose I don't blame them all that much. Given we were beyond the edge of Federation territory at the time, and yet close enough that we could potentially be spotted, there was stress among all to keep things as quiet as we possibly could.
Given the nature of the entire operation as we know it now, that's not remotely surprising, and I would not envy anyone in a similar standing that had to go through that. Like you, I too am curious about something. What was this alien tech yet you specifically were brought in to examine?
Initially, I had no idea why they needed someone of my renown to even take a look at it through a communication screen, let alone in person. But as soon as I got my eyes on it, I immediately understood and could not help but feel overjoyed. It wasn't just a weapon. It had distinct similarities to Choza weapons the Zabesians confiscated a few years before all of this, and yet there was something distinctly unique about it. I had been informed of reports that the plan was in some sort of war at the time between the native Luminoth and a different race of beings altogether, the latter of which had raided our site several times already and were not seen as allies in the slightest. I had to wonder if we had discovered something that the Luminoth might have developed to deal with these monsters. However, field tests of the device proved that it wasn't effective on the Darkling beasts at all. The opposite, in fact. But when I used a prototype on a couple of recruits that seemed to enjoy snickering too much, well, and let's just say they stopped being able to snicker a few seconds after getting hit by it. Due to its use of dark energy to function, I coined it the Dark Beam. And when it proved to be capable of opening portals into the realm where the Darklings lay, we immediately copied and installed a large-scale model of it in the base, and used it as a bridge between our world and the dark other Aether. And then when Phazon was discovered in the other realm, let's just say that High Command was extremely pleased and ordered a full invasion of and mining operation within the Dark World.
So you did all of that. That's quite remarkable. High Command being pleased isn't surprising, especially given the weapon's power against normal creatures.
Yes, that's what caught my attention as well. It could have proven to be extremely useful as a weapon of war, and I did many tests with it. Truthfully, it was easy to kill almost anything the weapon was aimed at, even for a non-combatant like myself, including some lab technicians that kept mixing up my beakers and my storage cabinets. And I was in the middle of developing an effective portable prototype that could be integrated into our own weapon systems. Until disaster struck. The hunters seemingly had found us, and as you might expect, pretty much everybody started to freak the hell out in confusion. Why was she here? How did she even know anything was going on? Well, while most of everyone was assuming that she was here for the Phazon we had at the time, since it seemed to be her only concern, I knew from the moment I saw her that it was not the hunter. Her form was wrong, the biology off. I could even tell from my lab that this was not one at all, but a dark hunter, some sort of twisted mockery of the woman. Thanks to some bumbling oafs, we managed to attract Federation troops, but they were a little concerned on their own since the local bioforms took care of them. But in an exposed state, it was only inevitable that the real hunter would be called in. And of course, as usual, I was right. What's more, the moment that the two hunters confronted each other, it was more than clear to all of us that perhaps the Dark Hunter could be made an ally of a sort. Balderdash! They thought so, but I knew better. I knew that trying to appease that monster anyway was a total mistake in every conceivable way. It was bad enough that she was trying to free the Talon Metroids we had possession of to some unknown end, at least unknown at the time, but to form any sort of alliance was simply a fool's errand, and could put us in more danger than we needed to be. Curiously, she never tried to attack or take anything within my quarters, but that's also because I still had an unfinished Dark Beam prototype in there, almost as if she feared it for some reason.
Well, we know that the Dark Hunter,
Oh, go on, just say it. It's not her. I don't mind.
Right. Dark Samus was a denizen of the light, so it would make sense for her to fear that kind of weapon. Though, if that is the case, why would she attack the actual hunter when she had it as well?
Well, it could have something to do with the fact that my prototype was only still a third of the size of the main cannon in the base, so I'd imagine it would have given a lot more bite to the strike. But from there, most of us just did our best to stop the hunter. Well, the others did. I spent my time during the crisis tinkering with the prototype. I learned many things of Luminoth from this, enough that I came to respect them greatly with time. Hell, far more than my own kind, to be fair. It didn't seem like it would matter much in the end, though. By the time I finally felt like actually taking a break from my work and stepped outside my lab space, everyone was gone. Go figure, the entire time I was in there, the Dark Hunter fell, the Hunter saved Illuminov, and Dark Aether had been totally destroyed. Funny the things you miss when you're too absorbed with your work. I genuinely feared that I would be terminated and attempted to escape, but the timing of said escape could not have been poor because I nearly ran into a squadron of Galactic Federation Marines. My lab was exposed, and I was in the perfect place to get sniped without care. But it seemed fortune smiled upon me and my work, as I was saved by Illuminov, of all things. She is the only reason I am alive now, and by default, here to speak with you on the matter.
That is quite the story, all right, and the truth, knowing you, of course. I am sorry you weren't able to bring most of your equipment on board here.
It is a painful and irritating loss, but I value my life above all of that, so the gesture to at least save as much as possible is appreciated.
Of course. Is there anything else you'd like to state here on the record before we wrap up this interview?
Just one thing. Is there any way that I can get Emol in a cage for something? I've got a wonderful experiment to run on him to try and simulate phase-on mutation.
Please don't. The last parasite used for an experiment grew 2 extra heads that spat bile, and Arrow is still dealing with the acid damage to the lounge quarters. End of case for file for crew member Sayensi.